Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning into News 9 Live. That particular topic, that's what we're going to probe today because it is a big day. The Home Minister of the country is in Arunachal on a 2-day visit, and that's the main reason. The border blueprint to counter China's aggression on the border front. Now, in a clear demographic change that has been enforced by China, the neighboring country has built several border villages and roads to strengthen its territorial claim on the disputed line of actual control. The construction of 628 odd villages and 21 counties across the border with an iron fist is a matter of concern for India. Now, these Chinese villages span across Ali and Gadi district opposite Ladakh right up to Nyangchi across Arunachal Pradesh. And they help the Chinese PLA to mobilize men and equipment at a short notice. The legitimacy of these territorial gains, is being established by populating these border villages with a mix of civil and military population. Now, on our side of the border, situation is in a stark contrast. Far-flung and remote Indian villages lack the facilities and incentives for the natural habitants to stay back. Many have left their homes in search of better jobs, healthcare and quality of life, rendering them as ghost villages in the mountains. Now, in a bid to counter that territorial aggression, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, he's on a 2-day visit to Arunachal Pradesh, where he is scheduled to launch the Vibrant Villages program in Kibithu, a village along the India-China border. The Vibrant Village program is a 4,800 crore rupees centrally sponsored scheme under which 2,967 villages in 46 blocks of 19 districts abutting the northern border in the states of Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh and the Union Territory of Ladakh have been identified for comprehensive development. In the first phase, 662 villages, including 445 in Andhra Pradesh, in Arunachal Pradesh, alone have been identified for priority coverage. Now, to empower people living in these areas, the Home Minister will also inaugurate 9 micro-hydel projects constructed under the Golden Jubilee Border Illumination Program and other ITBP projects as well. He's also going to visit the Namti field and pay homage to the Walong War Memorial. All these movements, mind you, are going to be noticed and registered by the Chinese PLA. Now, Shah's visit comes in the backdrop of a fresh irritant from China, that is the renaming of 11 places in the state of in Mandarin and Tibetan languages. There is also the fight to legitimize these territorial claims. But even as Xi Jinping solidifies an unprecedented third term as the head of the state, what does India need to do to safeguard its strategic affairs priorities and exactly what is at stake? I'm joined by Aditya Raj Kaul, Executive Editor, Strategic Affairs here in the studio, and also a defense expert will be joining us on the broadcast as well. But my colleague Nivriti has filed a short documentary story on the village border battle. You can download the News 9 Plus application, but in the meanwhile, and we are going to discuss the hot pursuit of the huts as well on these borders. Here's a snippet and we'll get back to the discussion.
China's malicious activities at the border with India have been uncovered by the Pentagon. In its report to the U.S. Congress, the U.S. Department of Defense has categorically said that China has built a large village in a disputed area.
They have a very clear vision about how to go about claiming and legitimizing their territory.
On the contrary, in the Indian side, there are lack of facilities there, lack of infrastructure, lack of any kind of, incentives to stay on. So the exodus takes place.
नौकरी न होने के कारण यहाँ से सब बाहर ही रहते हैं.
लास्ट बॉर्डर नीति में तो व्यवस्था नहीं है अभी.
If you provide the infrastructure, I think people would love to stay in the habitat where they belong to.
A picture postcard village in Uttarakhand. Just 26 kilometers from the Chinese border, Niti is far from teeming with tourists. It is being deserted even by its original inhabitants.
हम तो हो गए बुजुर्ग, वो लोग सब नीचे रहते हैं, ऊपर आते नहीं करने, नल वाले ठीक नहीं करते तो पानी का परेशानी भी है ही। अब हम बुजुर्ग वो दूर जाना पड़ता, इसको भी ठपी है। वो
हॉस्पिटल में स्टाफ तो है नहीं वहाँ, मतलब कम ही है, 2 ही है वहाँ। तो उसके बाद जैसे कोई बुजुर्ग बीमार हो गया, कुछ हो गया, तो मतलब हम अपने गाड़ी से हॉस्पिटल ले जाते हैं। एक एम्बुलेंस तो है वहाँ, लेकिन वो वैसे काम करनी है मतलब।
These people that we spoke to are from border village of Niti in Uttarakhand. The 2011 census said there were 29 households with 47 residents here. A 2018 study by JNU researchers puts this figure at 11 households with a population of 30. Niti is just one of the border villages along LAC that are facing large-scale exodus.
See, I have a first-hand experience about this because I am from Garhwal Rifles. Over a period of time when the whole world is moving very fast towards progress, development, well-being, so their aspirations have also looked at getting their children good education, health, facilities which otherwise are available to people in plains.
Over half the migrants moved out in search of jobs. The rest moved out because they wanted to access schools, colleges and hospitals. Others migrated because their villages had no infrastructure, no roads, no electricity and water.
Well, joining us on the broadcast is also Major General Ashwini Sevash, a defense expert. But, Aditya, just to get the ball rolling as well, the Vibrant Village program, Amit Shah is in Arunachal Pradesh. Do you think it's the right step in countering the kind of territorial aggression we've seen from China? And what kind of, territorial dividends can the country expect?
Well, first, Kabir, we need to understand there's a background to it. And the background is essential to understand because India has woken up pretty late. India has woken up late because China on the other side has been building infrastructure for years together. The road connectivity, the villages, the kind of infrastructure and modern technology that is being used in the villages there is exceptional. But here on the other side, we see continuously that there were protests happening. People were trying to wake up the government for years together, for decades together. But it's only in the last decade that connectivity has improved at least a little. There's been some realization that much needs to be done. And that's why Home Minister Amit Shah's visit to Arunachal Pradesh is very, very significant because there are two elements at play here. There are two strategic objectives. One is the political objective that the BJP might have in that area and in several of these border villages. And second, and the most important and crucial, is the strategic objective. That is vis-a-vis China. Because China has been building these villages for a very long time. We already have many villages there. But the infrastructure, schools, colleges, better modern technology, the towers for connectivity are still not there. So the Vibrant Village program is close to 4,800 crore that have been sanctioned to villages that are bordering China. We have Himachal Pradesh, we have Arunachal Pradesh, we have Sikkim, and we have most essentially Ladakh as well. And Home Minister Amit Shah is in Kibuthu. He is launching several of these infrastructure projects, and particularly in Kibuthu because there are several people who are migrating out. There are thousands of locals, particularly the youth, who are migrating out from villages in Uttarakhand, in Ladakh, and in, of course, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, because they do not find employment opportunities there. They do not find any better infrastructure, schools, colleges, and hospitals. And that is the reason that the government has sanctioned 4,800 crore. And mind it, 2,500 crore out of that is only for road connectivity. So you can imagine what kind of infrastructure would have been there and what will be replaced it with. So it is a very significant development. I would say that this should have happened at least 20 years back. And now a beginning has been made, but this is not enough. This is just a slow beginning that has been done. Much more needs to be done in these villages.
Absolutely. Major General, would you like to echo on what Aditya is talking about here in the studio as well? It seems like India is trying to beat China at their own game, but take a look at their organizational structure as well. Do you think we have the right kind of apparatus to be beating them on this hot pursuit with our Vibrant Village program?
Yeah, of course, Kabir. See, point is no doubt that India started very late. And as far as India, 5 border states are concerned, they are slightly different from each other. Now, if you take it Arunachal Pradesh, the problem is slightly different than what is there in Ladakh, Himachal, Uttarakhand and Sikkim. Now, as far as Arunachal is there, the biggest problem was that over a period of time, we never developed Arunachal Pradesh thinking that the Chinese will come. And therefore, no roads were made very close to the line of action control. Time has changed now. We are now start building in last 15, 20 years. You know, I served in area called Tooting, Machuka, and also on the line of actual control, we used to walk for 7 to 10 days to reach our battalion headquarters of League Company headquarters. Now, that was the mindset. The villages were not there. The population was hardly anything. So that gave the idea to the Chinese for slimy slicing. But things have changed. Now the roads are going up to the line of actual control. The villages are coming up. We are trying to make sure that there is some infrastructure which is developed for these villages in terms of electricity, water, connectivity. Now the whole mindset has changed. Now this is a beginning, and I suppose we are stepped in the right direction. And what we are doing is that roads are being constructed in these villages, given modern facilities so that they don't have to come back. And some sort of employment is also being generated that due to which they will stay in the area where they are having a village. Now, how do you achieve, or what all are the advantages of this? No, remember that as far as Chinese are concerned, they have made modern villages very close to their line of action control. And these are not modern villages. They are also defending locality during war. And therefore, to counter this vibrant village program is quite successful. What is happening is, when these villagers will be staying very close to the line of control, they became a stakeholder. They become the eyes and ears for the defense forces. They will then make sure that any activity of Chinese is immediately reported. And therefore, the whole concept changes. And I suppose Arunachal Pradesh is the main state where, you know, maximum money is being spent there. Out of 662 villages which have been identified.
I was actually, Major General Sivach, I was just going to come to that. A huge chunk of those 662 villages that have been identified for the first phase, nearly 450 are in Arunachal Pradesh alone. Do you think the focus is also right when we're trying to counter China's aggression here?
Absolutely. The scope is heavy because the eastern Ladakh, eastern Arunachal Pradesh is not developed. The roads have not gone. The villages are not there on the line of actual control. Now, out of these 662 villages, 445 will be from Arunachal Pradesh. A lot of money will be spent in constructing the roads and other infrastructure. So therefore, I suppose we are going in the right direction. We are sending a right message to China that this imaginary artificial change of name is not going to make any difference. Arunachal Pradesh is an integral part of India, was there and will always remain. So that is a very good message which we are sending. But as far as the other states are concerned, Kabir, the strategy is slightly different. There, the biggest problem is like what we are shown the Niti village in Uttarakhand. I was the Uttarakhand sub-area commander. I have been to all the villages. There, the biggest problem is the lack of employment in border places, and due to which the exodus take place. We have to create infrastructure to an extent where there are villages where you can generate some employment. Also to make sure the connectivity improve, and also that ensure that the electricity is there. I suppose that
absolutely all of these. You know, you are raising some really good points over there. Ghost village situation, Aditya, you know, Major General is talking about that as well. Niti is one of those villages that News 9 also went and touched, and we saw exactly how ghostly it feels, because not a lot of people are living there. But at the same time, you know, the VVP, circling back to the VVP, the kind of pressure it will put on the government. Take a look at some of the schemes that have also been put forth by the government. There's going to be ration that needs to be taken care of, action plans for the panchayat level, appropriate mechanisms at block levels. This puts the government at a lot of pressure. These are incentives for people who are going to come and stay at these vibrant villages. But it seems like it's a decade-long process for the government.
So for strategic needs, some hard calls need to be taken. There's no other way around it. Nivriti from our team had visited, you know, these villages, has spoken to experts, and you know, weeks ago we had raised these alarm bells of how it's important to restore these villages. And mind you, you know, Kabir, there needs to be an ecosystem that needs to be created, a self-serving ecosystem. There needs to be employment that needs to be generated, and that's how the youth will, at least the 50% of the youth in the villages will stay back there. build their own ecosystems there and survive in that area, and they will be happy in those areas. This also builds the security of that area, because if these villages become ghost villages, anything could happen. Possibly the Chinese could, come there again. Because what has been happening since years together is that the Chinese transgressions and aggressions have happened, and every time that happens, the Chinese enter an Indian territory, because these are porous borders. Thousands of such kilometers land is completely empty, or a rocky or a mountainous region. So there has been no, control on the Chinese aggressions and transgressions, and this is certainly going to continue as per China's policy, as per Xi Jinping's dream of, one China and the China dream that he had called on around 2012, 2013. And these are the areas, particularly in Arunachal Pradesh, Ladakh, and Himachal Pradesh, where maximum transgressions have happened. So this is a very bold, calculated, and strategic step that the Indian government has taken, both safeguarding the interests of the local population there as well as our own strategic pursuits. So I think it's a very important and strategic build-up and a beginning that's been made, but much more needs to be done to make this ecosystem self-serving, survival-based, and economy is something that needs to be taken care of as well. And we'll have to wait and watch how the Chinese react, because after a long time, the Home Minister is visiting Arunachal. The Chinese haven't ever taken it lightly, have issued very aggressive statements, and it's likely in days ahead, or perhaps by tomorrow, there will be a strong statement by Beijing.
And also looking at, international politics as well, the United States doesn't really shy away from hitting out at China as well. Twice it has come out in support of India when the McMahon line was being spoken about, or the recent renaming of those 11 places in Mandarin and Tibetan language as well. But do you think the United States, with how swiftly it comes on China, needs to do a little bit more on this front as well?
Well, it is US's own strategic objective in targeting China. They have faced a lot of clashes in the South China Sea. We've seen what's been happening with the Indo-Pacific as well, and several other, multilaterals, most importantly the Quad, which China sees as an aggression towards Beijing. So US certainly needs to do much more than only, talking about China as per their interests. But as of now, we need to see how India progresses and marches ahead, because ever since the Galwan incident in 2019, India has woken up. India has taken several steps against China that should have been taken years ago. I have been visiting particularly Chushul. I visited Sikkim as well, the Indo-China border there, and the kind of condition of the villages was completely pathetic. We had no connectivity by road, as well as no mobile signals in those areas. Things have changed significantly since 2019, but as I said, much more needs to be done. It's a good beginning for the local population, some incentives that have coming their way, but much more needs to be done both by the state governments as well as the central government, talking to the common people, asking them for their demands and what they really need in that area to stay back, to secure the villages and make them, uplift them in much ways in the next 5 years.
So social upliftment of these border areas is also crucial for our, territorial security as well. Major General Sevach, we'll give you the last word here. We've spoken about the exodus. We've spoken about how these villages need to come up with better facilities and amenities to make sure that the people actually end up staying over there. Also, we have the Vibrant Villages program. That's another step in countering China's territorial aggression. But at the same time, it's important to note why China started doing this. Even as Aditya talks about how we must be doing this, we should have done this ages, years back. We must also take note of what might happen in the future. Legitimizing these territorial gains by making sure a mix of civil and army civilians stay over there. Are we going to be able to counter China on that front, particularly with the steps that we're taking in a future discourse on talks between these two countries? Where is India going to stand? I know we're looking ahead in time, but where do you think India is going to stand if we, let's say, have a talk tomorrow on border dispute with China?
Yeah, Kabir, 2-3 factors. One is no doubt China has started long time back. They have started 50 years back. They think ahead. And the second issue is that their side, it is Tibet Plateau. Much easier to construct roads and all. They made a Western Highway, Xinjiang to Lhasa. They are now making a railway line. Their infrastructure is far better than us. Now also they are sort of upgrading. They have now built up class 18 roads bang up till the all border villages. They are made the logistic supply depot, which is largest in Asia in Tibet Autonomous Region. But having said so, the India is fast catching. In last 10 to 15 years, we have now started making number of roads, bridges, tunnels. The whole ecosystem has changed completely, and we are fast catching them. The only thing is that we are slightly lacking in Arunachal Pradesh, because the reason is we have just started 10 years back. Our mindset was that if we develop roads and villages, there is a chances of the Chinese coming and making use of it, because we were weak. But as on today, we are the fourth largest military and fifth largest economy. We have got newfound confidence in us. We know that we can face Chinese and beat them in their game. We have a 2 strike corps now with us, 17 corps and another strike corps from Western sector, giving a direct impression to China that it is not you will only come in India. We have a capability and capacity to come and hit you inside your land. So therefore, that complete mindset. My point is, Kabir, the biggest advantage what is happening is when this mindset has changed as far as India is concerned, because there is a dynamic and strong government in the hem of way, which is that tourism will come up. The tourism is a very important thing. Now, when these areas, border towns will develop and villages, the tourism will come to the last village. And once the tourism comes, you find development taking place at a very fast place. And therefore, I will urge the government, this inner line permit, which is there, must be relaxed, so the number of tourists must
absolutely, you know, positive reinforcements from tourism to booming economy to people coming back, better connectivity. Those are all, you know, certainly things that we need to look out for. Like Aditya also pointed out, we'll have to wait and watch as to what kind of statement comes from the Chinese side as well, now that Home Minister Amit Shah is visiting Arunachal Pradesh and launching, finally, the Vibrant Villages program, our bid to counter Chinese territorial aggression. We'll have to wait and watch as to what kind of statement comes from the Chinese side. Meanwhile, it has been a riveting conversation. Aditya Rajkal with me in the studio, and Major General Sivach, always a pleasure speaking to you. We'll have to wait and watch. This is a touchy topic, but for all those people who don't live in the border areas, here's a snippet of our docu-series about the problems that are there in those border areas and how the government is trying to tackle all of those. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Keep it with News 9.
China's malicious activities at the border with India have been uncovered by the Pentagon. In its report to the U.S. Congress, the U.S. Department of Defense has categorically said that China has built a large village in a disputed area.
They have a very clear vision about how to go about claiming and legitimizing their territory.
On the contrary, in the Indian side, there are lack of facilities there, lack of infrastructure, lack of any kind of, you know, incentives to stay on. So the exodus takes place.
नौकरी न होने के कारण यहाँ से सब बाहर ही रहते हैं.
लास्ट बॉर्डर नीति में तो व्यवस्था नहीं है अभी.
If you provide the infrastructure, I think people would love to stay in the habitat where they belong to.
A picture postcard village in Uttarakhand. Just 26 kilometers from the Chinese border, Niti is far from teeming with tourists. It is being deserted even by its original inhabitants.
हम तो हो गए बुजुर्ग, वो लोग सब नीचे रहते हैं, ऊपर आते नहीं, करने नल वाले ठीक नहीं करते तो पानी का परेशानी भी है ही. अब हम बुजुर्ग वो दूर जाना पड़ता, इसको भी ठप्पी है वो.
हॉस्पिटल में स्टाफ तो है नहीं वहाँ, मतलब कम ही है, 2 ही है वहाँ. तो उसके बाद जैसे कोई बुजुर्ग बीमार हो गया, कुछ हो गया, तो मतलब हम अपने गाड़ी से हॉस्पिटल ले जाते हैं. एक एम्बुलेंस तो है वहाँ, लेकिन वो वैसे काम करने है मतलब.
These people that we spoke to are from border village of Niti in Uttarakhand. The 2011 census said there were 29 households with 47 residents here. A 2018 study by JNU researchers puts this figure at 11 households with a population of 30. Niti is just one of the border villages along LAC that are facing large-scale exodus.
See, I have a first-hand experience about this because I am from Garhwal Rifles. Over a period of time when the whole world is moving very fast towards progress, development, well-being, so their aspirations have also looked at getting their children good education, health, facilities which otherwise are available to people in plains.
Over half the migrants moved out in search of jobs. The rest moved out because they wanted to access schools, colleges, and hospitals. Others migrated because their villages had no infrastructure, no roads, no electricity, and water.